Mr. Balala, the UAE being at a crossroads to several key continents, what guidelines can you provide to would-be foreign investors?
I would advise investors to come to Dubai. Dubai is the future, and the UAE is the future. They're safe, their money is safe, and I think they will reap a lot of benefits. I foresee the future of mankind in the desert. They would live in the desert and enjoy the rest of the world in its wilderness and natural habitat. But it's natural for people to come and make the desert green and bloom and reap and live a comfortable and safe life.
As you mentioned, Mr. Balala, Dubai being a small city-state has attracted over 15 million tourists a year, whereas Kenya, with all its vast natural habitat, can't even fetch 1 million tourists a year. What do you think is the problem here?
I think the problem is focus. Dubai is focused. So they create synergy when they want to do something, when they have a project. The entire government, all aspects of the country is focused on doing that, and it becomes a successful story. In Kenya, you'll find Balala, the Minister of Tourism, working so hard to bring tourists to Kenya, and the rest of the ministries are busy either misappropriating funds or not doing their job properly or dysfunction. I mean, you can't have other ministries doing what they're like. Well, there's a vision for the country. I'm not sure about 2030. Because as we are going, if we stumble a little bit, we will not be able to make it. So I think we should put our act together and do what Dubai is doing. Focus. When you have a vision, implement it well, do it right first time, get everybody on board and do the project right first time. So I think Kenya, with its natural habitat, if they work hard and do what Dubai is doing, they can achieve 5 million tourists in the next 2 years. I'm confident. But they need infrastructure, they need hotel rooms, they need to give incentives to investors to come to Kenya and provide these services. If the Kenyans themselves are not able, they also have to leverage their ability to grant loans to their counties, and provide them with a framework of how to develop not only the tourism industry, but also the agricultural industry, the economic sector at large.
And Mr. Balala, Kenyans are the most desired workforce from Africa to the UAE. Why do you think that they are most preferred for employment?
I think the educational system in Kenya has been the key factor, and also the culture. Kenyans have a great culture. I mean, nobody recognizes that, but in their own way, they are free people. They feel they're sovereign and they express themselves freely, but also politely, because of the educational system and the background of the families in Kenya. I mean, that has made them very deserved. They're also honest. And over 50,000 Kenyans work in Dubai, in the UAE right now. And I expect more to come.
Do you think the education system also needs to be upgraded again? Or?
I think the educational system in the whole world needs to be upgraded. Everybody has to follow his own culture. I mean, why are we being taught to be Englishmen or to be Americans in our schools? Why can't we be Africans, follow our own culture and do everything our way, even including the issue of governance?
And Mr. Balala, you have been most instrumental in the setup of the African Pavilion at the Global Village for over 2 decades now. What prompted you to take such an ambitious step forward?
I think the opportunity was there, and a lot of the exhibitors from Kenya at that time egged me on and said, Balala, come on, we have to have our own pavilion. And I thought it through, and I worked out something, and we managed to put up the first Kenyan pavilion in 2002 and we didn't look back after that. We expanded to the East and West African Pavilion, then to the African Pavilion, which is expanding. More countries are now coming into the pavilion from Africa. And this is a great opportunity for them. Dubai is the commercial hub for the entire Greater Middle East, and everybody's here. The Americans are here, the Chinese are here, the Germans are here, the French are here, everybody's here. You want to sell something to the rest of the world? Come to Dubai.
What has been the secret of your success for the Global Village, having achieved several accolades for the African Pavilion?
I think
And the most recent one
we
last week.
maintained authenticity. In the African Pavilion, everything is handmade. Everything is authentic. The Africans themselves are authentic. The rest of the pavilions may have other nationalities or other
Workforce.
backgrounds, I mean, in the pavilions, but not the African pavilion. You feel that when you're in an African pavilion, it's bubbling and it's vibrant. The colors, the feeling, the music, the environment makes you feel like you're back home, you're like in Africa. And that is what we wanted the visitors to feel. Because the Global Village is an edutainment center. It educates and entertains. So we propagate. And the African Pavilion has been a vibrant platform for the rest of Africa, the sub-Saharan Africa, to promote, market, and sell itself to the rest of the world through Dubai. 160 nationalities come to the Global Village. Over 6 million people came into the... Where else in the world you get a market coming to you? You have to chase a market. In the Global Village, the market comes to you. So that's a great opportunity. I advise all the African countries to take advantage of this. And the African ambassadors and consul generals to try and promote their nations through the Global Village and the African Pavilion in particular in Dubai.
You recently added another feather to your cap, just winning the best pavilion at the Global Village on behalf of the African states. What has been your achievement? I mean, what has been your expectations on this?
This is the second time that we've won the Best Pavilion Award. And we've won also the second Best Pavilion Award in 2005 after India, the largest pavilion in the Global Village, almost a mini Global Village. But it's through hard work and honesty, I think, that creates success. If you work hard and you're honest, God listens, things open, your destiny is certain. And passion. I think we've been very passionate in the Global Village compared to the rest of the countries that are participating there. In the essence that we are behind. Africa is lagging. We have to really work hard than the rest of the world to promote ourselves. And that's what we are doing. And I give commendation and I hail the exhibitors from Africa, the ones that come, families, sometimes children with their mothers and fathers. And now they've grown. And they're the ones leading the business in the Global Village. They make millions of dollars. The African Pavilion is not of my opinion that it's the best pavilion in the Global Village. It's the visitors' opinion. They voted us the best pavilion in the Global Village in all aspects. And I'm not proud of it. I want to do better. I want to bring in more African countries to represent Africa in all aspects and improve the lives of Africans back home. Because the Global Village provides a platform for the ones in the villages, the ones that create those handmade souvenirs and handicrafts, sometimes for days. And then you find someone at the Global Village offering you 5 dirhams, 10 dirhams. You worked on it 3 or 4 days. It's not fair. And I would tell them, don't sell. But they would sell because they need the money.
That's right. And Mr. Balala, what are some of the assistance that you avail to African small-scale traders? And how do you help them market their products internationally?
Because I was an exhibitor, and because I struggled in life as well, and because I lived the life of Africans and I feel them, I had to help them From 9 exhibitors, we grew to 27. And
Wow.
now we're over 115.
Mm.
Sometimes I have to buy the ticket for them and provide them the exhibition space for free
Okay.
until they're able to sell.
Mm.
Because they loan their goods. They take them on loan, sell them, make a profit, pay me. It's a long process. It's a difficult process. Sometimes there are incidents in the middle
Yeah.
and they have to improvise. So I help them when they're successful because they're families. I feel that they're my brothers and sisters. And we have a very pleasant working relationship. I think the best in the global village. I have a meeting with them when we first open, and I have a meeting with them when we close. So in order to wrap up and understand each other and understand the way forward or where we're coming from, I inform them about everything. I also help them to improve their way of marketing and of selling their wares. And we have a certain performance record in the Global Village and the African Pavilion, and we give incentives to those who do well and outperform others, as well as improve their display in order to compete in the market. If we're not able to compete, they will leave us behind.
True.
And we don't.
What is your mission and vision for the African Pavilion this season, since you are just fresh from winning the best pavilion of the year? And
Well, we've prepared a very beautiful presentation to the Global Village for the RPF, and we hope to be accepted, as we were the first to initiate this. And our design for next year is awesome. It'll be a wow. I think we want to make the children, we want to make the mothers and fathers, the families, the different nationalities that come into the Global Village. We have this passion of making people come out of the Africa Pavilion with a smile. Yeah? And inside the pavilion, as they are buying, we play the African music. They feel good. Even the small children enjoy that African beat. Hakuna Matata. That's what we tell them.
that's right.
No problems. Please, welcome.
And how different is the African Pavilion going to be this year, as you mentioned? And what new expectations are we going to see?
I think we will have more countries involved in the African Pavilion, African countries, more exhibitors, meaning more, assortment
Merchandise.
of products from Africa, which actually they need to be exposed. A lot of people, listen, the wealth is in Africa. Sheikh Khalifa said, your vision in Dubai and UAE, Africa. Sheikh Mohammed says, Africa. That's where the money is. They need everything in Africa. Still a virgin state. And I think the future. The Arabs have a saying, ride the camel while the camel is sitting. It may stand and walk with you.
Yeah.
Don't ride the camel while the camel is standing. It may sit and you never walk. America, Europe, saturated. They're not going anywhere. They're going to fight each other. But Africa, Southeast Asia, India is still living in 1952. Amazing. They will definitely go on.
You just mentioned about India right now, and being one of the largest in
Democracies
democracy,
in the world.
but it still lags behind. What's your opinion about India?
It's very unfortunate that India today is the way it is. The Indians are suffering. The Indians are suffering, and it just proves that whether you're a big democracy or a small democracy, it boils down to the work that is applied, and the honesty and the passion with that work. Now, India needs a new vision, needs new leaders, young leaders. These old leaders should all be put in museums. They should be honored. But young leaders, energetic, honest leaders should be voted in and bring that country back into the fold of this world and its natural position in this world.
Mr. Balala, turning back to another topic, do you feel that the African Union has done enough to defend the sovereignty and independence of member states?
I think the African Union is doing a good job, and it will improve. The only problem is the UN, the United Nations. We don't know what it stands for, who it stands for. What has it done for anybody, the United Nations? I mean, right now, in this age and time, we have institutions in this world that are dormant, that should be,
Eradicated.
disposed of, and new institutions should be formed. The educational system in the world should be overhauled. The justice system in the world should be overhauled. We don't have justice. We don't have justice in this world. This is too complex. This hullabaloo about, we don't have the hypocrites off. Doctors are businessmen. Pharmaceuticals, pharma companies, they're taking advantage and hurting people, small children and mothers. We need an overhaul of governance, of justice, including religion. All religions preach good. Why are we bad? Look at the state of the world. How many people are poor? Why are countries graded as poor countries and then not helped? Why are we? There's discrimination. Yeah? 99% of the people in the world are suffering. And what are we doing about it? What is the United Nations fraternity? Anybody serious, please, Theresa May. Please. Trump. Putin. Macron. Please. What are you guys doing? I mean, leaders, you call yourselves leaders. What leaders? No. Don't be another brick in the wall, students.
What about the European Union and the BRIC exit? What's your opinion about
The
it?
European Union is bound to implode. The way things are with dysfunctional states, economical, look at Greece, look at other countries that are suffering now. The Eastern Bloc is coming, and they will suffer because they can't keep up with the West European. So there's no level ground for them to play, to work on. Definitely it's going to implode. But I think the Europeans and the Americans should now try to leave the rest of the world lead on its own terms, not their terms. Otherwise, we're going to have a revolution in this world.
Mr. Balala, turning back to your personal issue, what has been some of your greatest moments and achievements in life? What are your hobbies like?
When I learn something new, that's a great moment.
Okay.
But it humbles me that as you grow older and maybe wiser, I don't know, but you learn more, you learn to be patient. The experience teaches you to remove the chaff from the ends, or if you like. Life teaches you. The years, there's no gain without pain. There's no gain without pain. You have to work hard for everything. And the havocs and the trials of every day, this is a natural process. Look at the animals, look at the rest of the world. Everybody's living the same kind of life. So if you have a problem in your life, it's not the end of it. You experience it and you overcome it. Life is full of challenges. Governments have challenges. The Dubai government, with all what it's doing, has a great challenge. And I think with their determination and their honesty and hard work, they will overcome it. That is the answer. Key is to believe in yourself, and you can do it. Key is to have confidence. Without that, you won't be able to do anything.
You have been wearing a natural smile since childhood, and you've been a public figure in many other institutions. whenever I go out with you in public places, I see you have a huge crowd of followers. What attracts people to you?
I think the language of love, even animals understand. Humility, reality. Keep it real. Don't pretend. My mother taught me to smile when I'm happy, to cry when I'm sad, to shout if I'm angry. That's the language. It's my language, our language, the truth. So if we express ourselves the way we are, everything will be fine. Abraham Lincoln said, tell the nation the truth and all will be well. Most of our leaders today tell us lies. They lie in their faces and they're not ashamed. That is not going to take us anywhere. Trust me.
Going back to Kenya, we recently had a leaders meeting together, and President Uhuru Kenyatta has been doing quite a lot for his citizens. How do you think the new government at present?
I think Uhuru Kenyatta is the right leader for Kenya. He has problems, he has a little bit of challenges from the circle around him. But given the chance, Uhuru will do very well. He's serious, he's passionate, he's young, he's energetic, he's honest. And I trust that he will do a good job. Whether he gets the approval of everybody or not, I think sometimes you need a stick more than the carrot.
Maybe you can talk more about the East African states. We talked much about Kenya itself, but the East African states, maybe you can talk something about the Union.
Africa has a great future. As I said, they need everything. They need to improve on all aspects of their lives, in governance, in administration, infrastructure. It's better to start when you're down and move up. But if you start when you're up there and you move down, that's very good. So Africa is safe. And I think the East African states, they will continue to coordinate and build themselves together. The only problem is the interference from abroad. As much as we don't like it, African countries sometimes are helpless in that aspect, especially in regard to finance. Now, all the banks are foreign. All the money has to come from the IMF or the World Bank, or some other entity. Maybe China, maybe Iran, maybe Israel, maybe England, maybe Germany or Japan. But it will be on condition. Now, we as small countries, young countries, we need to be careful, because banks are a difficult institution, and we have great experience with banks. You remember the crisis of 2008. I mean, if anyone should be held responsible, it should have been the banks. Why is it that when somebody steals a tomato or a piece of trousers, is jailed for 4 or 5 years, and when somebody steals billions, is running around
Scot-free.
prominent, arrogant, scot-free? What kind of state of the world is this? We need to change.
So you feel the judiciary system needs a lot of improvements?
Absolutely. The whole judicial system, the whole medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the educational system, the administration system, governance. We are not free. Human beings. We are not human beings, we are animals. If 7 billion human beings are in this world today, we would be a different kind of world. There are no 7 billion human beings in this world. The majority are animals.
Mr. Balala, what advice can you give to upcoming generation? Because they are the leaders of the future. So what's your advice to them?
Don't trust your leaders until they prove themselves. Action speaks louder than words. Don't trust words. If you love me, show me. Don't tell me. If you don't love me, tell me. Don't show me. That should be the principle. Track record. You have a leader, what track record does he have? What successful record has he achieved for his people? Then put him there. Without that, no. Give the person who has a track record, who has been successful, whom people are happy about, and promote the doctors, also the lawyers, the justice system that is appealing to the people. Not all the people, but the majority of all aspects, of all categories. With the government, opposition, without. That way, we will go somewhere. This way, just through advertisement in America, you can become a leader. Through an ad. How stupid is that? And they're the leaders of the world, free world. What free world? Who can be a leader of the free world when he won an election on an ad? Not possible. Not in my country.